Welcome back to Turning Point Tonight, where together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. Thanks so much for sticking with us. I think we've had questions like this for a really long time. We've all seen the catalysts, if you will, of various cultural events, societal events that have pivoted people away from progressivism. You saw George Floyd, you saw the horrible government reaction to COVID, you saw inflation, you saw the Afghanistan withdrawal. You saw so many different things that people point out this was it. This was my turning point. This was the lie that the media continued to feed to me that I couldn't believe and therefore have come over to the right side of the aisle. My curiosity, though, leads me to wonder, does it need to be a big defining pivotal moment? Does there need to be a BLM riots across the country, looting in the streets, mask mandates, vaccine mandates? Does that need to happen, or is there another way? I'm going to throw this, it's a rather big question onto our guest, Natalie Jean Beisner, who's a former lib and turned into a conservative, or maybe always was a conservative, just maybe started paying attention a little bit, because I think that's generally how things happen. But Natalie, I'd love to throw that question out to you. Is it necessary for some big cultural shift to take place in order for people to see the light, if you will, or is it kind of an incremental thing? How have you best been able to change the hearts and minds of your friends who may not politically agree with you?
Well, you said it. It is a big question. I wish I had a better answer. I do tend to think that human beings have to suffer a bit, that is kind of our human nature. And it doesn't necessarily, I think, need to be a big thing like COVID, in which people suffered in mass. But I think even in your personal life, so often people hit rock bottom before they get sober or something like that. We kind of are built in such a way that oftentimes we have to suffer before we really do change. And that was my experience, at least. Not that I had not suffered before 2020, but like I said, it was the first time it was like smacking me in the face that my suffering was being directly caused by these policies that the Democrats were promoting. And when a moment like that happens, it's hard to look away from it, and it does jolt you awake, for lack of a better word, and suddenly you start paying attention, whereas before you had the luxury of not paying attention and just going every
Mhm.
4 years to vote for the Democrat and thinking you were being a good person. um, I do think, I like to think that even if COVID hadn't happened and the hypocrisy with BLM, that I would no longer be a Democrat, because I've watched them just get crazier and crazier. But how can I say for sure? And I think that it's really hard to change people's minds when they are just stuck in this. I mean, really, this term gets thrown around a lot, but it is indoctrination. It is brainwashing. We're so divided in so many ways, and we have like different views of reality. And oftentimes on the left, they don't even recognize objective reality or objective truth. So it's very hard to just send someone a clip and change their mind. But I do think, and I think that this is important, and it's part of why I speak up online, that we can, first of all, we have to speak the truth, because how are future generations going to know it? The truth will always be the truth, but if we don't speak it, how are our kids going to know it? I think that we can plant seeds by speaking the truth. My father is a good example. He was a Trump supporter from the beginning, and I didn't get it, did not understand it at all, and we haven't always had the closest relationship, but I loved my father anyways. And so loving my dad, despite the fact that he was a Trump supporter, let me know, even when I was in the midst of my liberalism and believing the media lies, that what they were saying about Trump supporters could not possibly be true of every Trump supporter, because my
Mhm.
dad is not like that. And for the life of me, I can't understand these people who like stop talking to their parents because they're Trump supporters. And so even just that, my dad and I didn't really talk about politics, but the sheer fact that I knew a man and loved a man who was not like the way the media was framing these
Mhm.
people, again, it wasn't enough to wake me up. It wasn't enough to make me go dig deeper until 2020, until I had to. But it was like a seed that was planted that kept me a little bit grounded. And so I think that oftentimes when we speak the truth, continue to speak the truth, even when it's hard, you never know what seeds you're planting that will take fruition later on. I truly believe that I changed later in life than people often do. I had a fairly dramatic change. I went from, an atheist Democrat to a Christian conservative. Like you said, it didn't happen overnight, but
Hmm.
I would have never thought that this would have happened. I mean, even just down to I truly hated Donald Trump, and now I voted for him twice. Again, didn't happen overnight, but we we can plant these seeds that possibly will take fruition on. But I don't think that in a moment or in a conversation, I think it's very hard to change someone's mind unless they're open to it and they're already questioning. I wish that it was easier to change someone's mind, but it's challenging.
I think I want to say it's Winston Churchill. I always get this quote mixed up for who said it, but if you're not a liberal in your 30s, you have no, or sorry, liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative in your 30s, you have no brain. And I think that kind of holds true in a lot of ways, except for nowadays, people are so outspoken about things that pride has become an issue where somebody has been so lefty progressive that it's a very, very difficult transition to go, oh, shoot, I dug into this a little bit more and I was wrong. I mean, personally, that's why, not to plug Turning Point. That's why I think Turning Point is such an important institution, because you get kids at the younger level so they don't have to go through that really difficult, prideful transition. But so here's what I've also noticed about people who have crossed political aisles, so to speak. A lot of you are very outspoken, and I love that. But what is it that makes somebody who used to be on one side of the aisle and kind of, whether or not they were outspoken on that side of the aisle, and then they come over to the conservative side of things, and now it is, oh shoot, I have to tell everybody, which is, again, not disparaging people who have already been on that side, but I know people who are conservatives and been conservatives their entire life and don't really talk about it, don't really take a huge initiative. But not the people that come over from the lefty side of the aisle. They are out and proud. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I want to touch on something you said about getting people when they're younger, because that is very important. It's more than just voting for the Democrat every 4 years. I mean, I bought lies. I bought lies that were sold to me, and it impacted my life, and I suffered because of it, especially in not knowing God and denying these certain objective truths. And so it is more, and I think, again, my generation, millennials, kind of broke that thing of, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative when you're older, you have no brain, because so many of us have stayed liberal for so long. And so getting people when they're younger so that they don't have to go through this, I think, is a wonderful thing. My one regret is that I didn't walk away sooner. But that said,
Mhm.
the reason so many of us are so passionate, I think, ties into what I just said, is that we have bought these lies. And now we see the truth. And when you see the truth, you want to share it with the entire world. It's kind of like, I don't know, Ebenezer Scrooge waking up after the visit from all three ghosts. And he's realized that he's gotten a second chance, that he was living a lie. And, he wants to go buy them a turkey and hug Tiny Tim and all of that, because you just want to spread it around. I want people to know the truth. I mean, I I really bought lies for so long, and I thought that I was right. And then it's so humbling to realize I was wrong about everything, not just who to vote for as president. And I just want for other people to not have to suffer in the way that I did. And I want people to know the truth. I don't, even just with something like Donald Trump, I don't care if someone doesn't like Donald Trump. That's fine. But the reason I hated Trump, it was all based on lies. The reason that most people hate Trump, it's mostly based on lies for like 99% of people. And so I want people to be able to come to their own conclusions honestly and genuinely with all of the information, not having a narrative presented to them, just a single narrative as the truth. And so I think that's why so often a lot of us former Democrats, first of all, a lot of us become very conservative and a lot of us become Christian and that kind of thing. We go very far in the opposite direction. But that's the reason a lot of us are outspoken, because when you wake up from a lie, you just want to tell the world.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful. There's a thing in there that I want to make sure we clear up, especially with our audience. Bunch of the libs, if they're gonna hit us on something, say, well, you get mad when we're going after kids versus where we're trying to instill conservative values. That's clearly not the same thing. I like to
Mhm.
use the terms. What you guys are doing is propaganda. What we're doing is propagation. You can raise someone right, and that's fine. If you're teaching them stuff that they wouldn't believe otherwise outside of your crazy ideology, that's a completely different thing. And I know I'm just
Well,
preparing
yeah.
for the Mediaite hit or
No,
whatever
that's a
Media
good
Matters
call,
hit.
but also
Yeah,
we have to teach children something. I mean,
of
you're not just
course.
gonna let
Yeah.
them come to their own conclusions about everything, just tell them to go off and figure it out. We teach them something,
Mhm.
and not all of it is grooming or whatever. We have to
Totally.
teach children, and hopefully we're teaching them the truth.
Yeah. Natalie, in the couple of minutes I have left, we very conservative audience, which again, I hope there's some education being brought to them of well, what do we do if we have a liberal family member, or liberal friend, coworker, member of our church, neighbor? What do you do? What is the couple minute advice that you would tell them? Hey, here's how you kind of handle this situation, or at least guide it along to where you're the person they go to when they have questions about, hey, maybe not everything the media is saying is true.
Yeah, I mean, I think love them anyways. Continue the
Hmm.
relationship. They want to stop relationships with us so often. Obviously, you can't control that, but do not be the reason that a relationship stops because of politics. Obviously, take care of yourself and all that, but love them anyways. Continue speaking the truth. I know a lot of times we want to shy away from religion and politics because we were raised that it's not polite, but I think that that time has kind of passed. You don't need to be aggressive and start fights at the Christmas dinner table, but you should speak truth. We should speak about these things. And again, I think you just plant those seeds. But I know that people don't like that because it's not a very action oriented thing and you're kind of leaving it up to chance. I will say that I think if you can, if people are open to, send someone the video. One of the things that really changed my mind on Donald Trump was that it took me until 2020, 3 years, to watch the full Charlottesville press conference and realize that he did
Mm.
not say there's very fine people on both sides. For 3 years, I had thought that our president said that the Nazis are fine people because that is literally what the media told me. And even when I sought out the full press conference, the CNBC video on YouTube was misleadingly titled. It was the full conference, but it said, he says there's very fine people. Everything wants you to believe this one particular narrative, whatever it is. There's so many hoaxes. And I don't know if someone had made me sit down and watch the full video, would I have come away a Republican or a Christian or a conservative? Probably not, but it would have jolted something in me 3 years earlier to realize that, oh, he actually explicitly condemned them twice in this press conference. And it took me 3 years to realize that. And I had to go digging for it,
Hmm.
which is fine. But, if someone had sent that to me, if someone had showed it to me, maybe things would have been different. So if someone is open to seeing these, if you're able to dispel these media lies to a loved one, to a friend, I say go for it because you never know. I mean, really, these
Yeah.
people are believing an alternate reality, and just seeing the video might, again, plant that seed.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a difficult one, especially when Obama, the most popular person in the Democrat Party, is also peddling the lie of, oh yeah, good people on both sides. He knows it isn't true, and he's just being cynical. Compassion and friendliness, and waiting for them to come along. I like that, except for the fact that that probably means I can't wear my Hillary for Prison T-shirt to Thanksgiving, but I think I'll survive. Natalie Beisner, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up next on Turning Point tonight, I got a great clip from Alex Clark's Culture Apothecary podcast. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.